Hello out there, and welcome to the Holy Hour podcast, the All Cure bi-weekly podcast. You're back for another episode, or maybe this is the first one somehow. Weird place to start, but hey, I'm not judging you. I'm Gavin. Thanks for hanging out. It's a lovely spring day here. We got some birds in the background. Can't imagine that would bother anybody, but there they are, little tweets. And what better way to introduce this episode? It's all about the beginnings and the new life of a Cure fan. Origin Tales. We haven't done an Origin Stories episode in a while, right? So this song's about how it all starts for two fans in particular, and where this adventure brought them. Before we dive into the Origin Tales, though, I do want to give two quick shout-outs, as we like to do anytime we stumble across other podcast stuff that's related to The Cure. And there's two good ones out there right now. The first one is from a podcast called The Permanent Record, and it's a husband and wife, I believe, and sometimes with guests, they pick apart old classic albums usually, and usually do them in two parts, and they do everything from New Order to the first episode's Yaz, one of my personal favorite albums growing up, and Erasure, Depeche Mode, all our favorites are on there. And they did a Head on the Door one a while back, but this one, in the month of May, they have devoted all to Disintegration. So it starts out with some Rock and Roll Hall of Fame talk in one episode, bleeds into Disintegration, and then there's a full-on Disintegration episode, and then one more to come, I think. So at least 3 episodes are going to be on Disintegration, maybe even more. So I recommend checking those out. They are very articulate and very great research and thought through everything. They gave us a shout out, which was super nice. I left them a review just saying how I'm happy to hear more Cure talk out there, and they gave us a shout out. I think we might have turned the one dude off anyway a bit with our swearing, so apologies to them if they're still listening. And apologies to anyone else out there, I guess. Maybe we do curse too much, but, we're getting excited over here. We're passionate about these things. That's what happens. Sorry, man. But I hope you still enjoy it nonetheless, whoever's listening out there. And the other one is from our buddy Scott, who's contributed to the show before, and he's got a whole podcast regime going over there. He's got a whole crew, and they've got multiple podcasts going, but the main one is Nerds with Attitude, and I think he kind of has this main offshoot called Nerd Tunes, and you can find that all on the feed of the Nerds with Attitude on iTunes as well. But he did a really cool episode, and it was episode 19 of Nerd Tunes, where it features The Cure, and Scott basically plays one track off of all 13 albums for his friend, who's not so much a diehard Cure fan, and they discuss The Cure's history in general and the track that's played, and it's just kind of a cool listening of Cure talk, so I highly recommend it. Scott's always got great things to say on social media. Seems like a really awesome dude, so go check that one out. Episode 19 of Nerd Tunes on iTunes. All right, this episode, Origin Tales, Origin Stories, whatever you want to call it, this is how it all began. We got two very cool dudes, Victor and Jon, shared their time and thoughts with us. And by chance, it worked out that we have never had any international origin stories on this episode. We've had clips from people all over the world sending in their thoughts on episodes, but we haven't really delved into the full-on origin tales of anybody outside of the U.S. And it's cool to get a different perspective on that with these two wonderful guests. So without further ado, the first one was sent in by Victor. I had the pleasure of meeting Victor in person at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame hangout, and then we all walked down to the show together and met up afterwards. Sweet guy, and love talking to him in emails and elsewhere, and just a really cool dude that's very passionate about this band. Always looking out, covering my back when I miss any new Cure news, and just an all-around great dude. So it was so cool to finally document his origin tale.
Hi, Evan. I've been meaning to record this and send it out for some time, but my story with The Cure is, I think it's different from most of yours. I've been listening to the podcast since late last year. I've been catching up with the old episodes and have heard some of the different people's origin stories and all that. And at least the ones that I've heard so far have all been from people from the U.S. And in my case, I'm from Costa Rica. I lived all my life until just a couple years ago in different countries in Latin America. And I think this has a lot to do with my story. So I first got to know The Cure when I was living in Venezuela. I lived there from 83 to 98. It was a very different country back then, but, well, still not like the U.S. or Europe. There used to be a few records at home, but not that many. My sister, who is a couple of years older than me, she didn't listen too much music, at least the kind that I could get interested in. So the first thing I remember liking a little more was at a friend's house where I used to go to do some homework and stuff and all that, and he had some tapes with Genesis and Phil Collins. I think maybe REO, Speedwagon, The Police. And that's probably when I started getting a little more interested in music. The first thing with The Cure was, I remember they used to have, there was an ad on the TV when they were promoting Standing on the Beach. So I guess that's got to be probably like 86, maybe 87, I don't know. But around that time, they were promoting Standing on the Beach. And it was also a record from Level 42. And it was the same ad, I don't know, 30 seconds and part. So I liked what I heard in the ad. And so at some point I decided to go to the record store and get it. And I got both cassettes. Level 42, in the end, I didn't like much. Maybe a song or two. I think it was Lessons in Love was in the cassette. The Cure, on the other hand, I liked much better. For now, I'll just talk about the A sides. I'm talking about Standing on the Beach, so I'll just talk about the A side for now. I kind of like all those, except I remember not liking Charlotte Sometimes, which is one of my favorite songs now. And I didn't like Hanging Garden either too much. The rest of it I did love. I don't know exactly what time did I start getting together with a couple of neighbors just to listen to music. So we used to meet and just listen to music, put some records, whatever. We used to listen to different stuff. I think I can remember playing Sting and Bon Jovi, Europe, a lot of hair metal. I also remember Iron Maiden, Anthrax, Metallica, which I still listen to a lot of that stuff. But I mean, those years where I'm talking about, it was easier to find information on those bands, at least through the magazines that we were able to find there. Like I don't know, Hit Parader maybe was the name of one, or Metal Hammer. I don't know, one of those or those. And it was easier to get information on those bands than I think things like The Cure. There was no internet or anything similar at that time. We're talking about year 86, 87, and being in Latin America probably translates to, I don't know, about early 80s here. So I remember each one of us would like champion whatever we liked the most. And The Cure was one of those bands that I would promote among my friends and all that. I remember also I went at some point to the record store also, and there was this other record from The Cure, and it was, well, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. Maybe it was new, or maybe it, I don't know, was there, and I remember I got it, and I remember I loved almost all of it. And it was probably around that same time that one of these neighbors that I that I was with got his hands on two things. I remember clearly. One of them was a VHS tape one of his cousins had recorded or something, I don't know how, from TV or whatever, from a show in Brazil, in Maracanã. And there was also a cassette tape that they recorded someone, again, a cousin or something, who lived in a different city, in a bigger city. So he had recorded from a radio show that they had a broadcast of The Cure in Glastonbury. And both the tape and the cassette and the VHS and all that, that was the first time I heard stuff like Push or 6 Different Ways. I was blown away. To that point, yeah, I heard the Stand on the Beach with a little note there, and Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. And I knew Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me was kind of like the newer one because it was, I don't know, with the same year in which we were. So I started to wonder, okay, what are these other songs that I'm hearing? So, maybe there was something more. And then at some point, this same guy got his hands. He knew somebody that had it, and he borrowed it. He got in his hands on I remember it was a Greek version of Standing on the Beach cassette. And what was different with this one? Well, to this point, the only one that I had was the tape that I had bought, which was the Venezuelan version. But it did not have the B-sides. So this Greek version had the B-sides. And I mean, wow, I was really, really blown away. I didn't even think anything like that existed. I only knew that tape that I had, and I remember listening to Throw Your Foot or A Few Hours After This, The Exploding Boy. Those songs, wow. At that point, that was, I mean, my band. The Cure was my band from that point. But again, I think, I mean, I knew there had to be something more than that because of those songs I had heard in the Glastonbury thing and the Brazil concert and all that. So I remember during those years, during the summer, we would travel back to Costa Rica and visit my grandparents and all that. And it was during those trips that I started filling some of those gaps because I would go to the record store and they had imports. In Venezuela, at least in the stores that I went to, they didn't have imports. They had their own pressing plants, so they would only sell whatever they were pressing locally. And in Costa Rica, they did not have anything like that. At least I think they didn't. So I would find imports. And that's where I would see a record, and I say, oh, look at that. This is where Primary is. And it was Fade, or wow, this one has Push and Close to Me and In Between Days. Wow. When I would see for the first time The Head on the Door, like things that I didn't even know existed. And the other thing was that my mother used to go to Florida with her sister like once a year. And I would ask her to get me stuff from The Cure. Whatever it was, I didn't even know what was out there. And I would just write down on a piece of paper the records that I already had and ask her, bring me whatever other thing you find that's not these. And I can remember she got me the top, the walk, the thing, and with the 6 songs, and Japanese whispers on all 3 of those in cassette. Wow, there was so much stuff that I didn't even know existed. And yeah, she got me those. She didn't get me pornography. So I don't know, maybe she saw it and didn't approve. I don't know. I didn't get pornography till a couple of years later, I think. Well, it was a bit of a struggle because for us, or for me, in that situation where I was living and all that, I didn't have access to all that stuff. Access or even knowledge of things existing. That's kind of how I started getting those records. I remember liking some more than others, and also some songs more than others. It's like you've said, and I like more the upbeat and poppy kind of stuff, which is, like I said, like I've heard in some of your podcasts, saying that the pop is what gets your attention and hooks you at first, and now probably I prefer more atmospheric or darker or even heavier. I don't know, different things of the Cure. I still have. I still like a lot of the pop stuff as well. At some point, I saw at the record store the cassette for Disintegration, and I bought it. It's got to be probably the same year it came out, 89 or 90. I don't know when things came out somewhere, and when would they come out in Venezuela. But I do remember, however, not liking most of it. Like I said, I was more into the upbeat songs, and my friends with whom I would listen music with, they didn't like it either. They felt it was like way too slow and like, well, nothing's happening here. And I don't know, that's how I felt also. I do remember liking Pictures of You, but probably not much more after that. I don't. And now Disintegration is my favorite album of all. And I don't know exactly when did that happen. When did I change? When I probably started liking it little by little, but I don't know. Maybe I think, and it was probably many years later, but I think probably when I really, really liked it was like 10 years later, when the trilogy DVD came out. I do remember loving Wish since the moment I heard it, and it's probably at that point I think I was getting records more like close to when they were really released. I don't think the same day of the release, but at least closer. So yeah, I do remember loving Wish. I was already in college by then, and by this time, both of my neighbors, the guys that I would listen to music with, they both had gone to live to France. So I stopped having friends with whom I could share my passion for the Cure, and that's a huge reason why I appreciate so much what you're doing with the podcast. I've been missing something like this for almost 30 years. And, well, that's also why I decided to record myself and share my story with all you out there. Also, as you see, being a Cure fan is hard for different reasons. I mean, you shared some of your stories about how it was hard before they became big, and then at some point you got like some kind of validation or something. I don't know how to say it, but when you were able to start saying, "See, this is the Cure, this is my band, they made it." Well, in my case, it was hard for different reasons. Like I said, access to stuff, and then there was the thing. Like, so how could I ever go to a Cure show to see them live? They never went anywhere close to Costa Rica or Venezuela during those years. And even if they did, it would have been hard unless it was in my city for me to go. And when I got out of college, I went to live in Argentina. That was from '98 to 2003. And again, they never played anywhere near. That's when I was starting to work, so I could have a little more money or whatever, but they never played anywhere near during those years. I think they stopped going to Argentina until like 5 years ago. I think that was after some kind of riot in '86 or '87 in one of their shows in a stadium down there. So actually my first show was only in 2008 for the 413 Dream Tour. Yeah. So that's hard. So many years being a fan and not having that possibility. So at that time I was living in Costa Rica. I was already back from Argentina. So I was living in Costa Rica and I traveled to Tampa for this show. And I met there with an old friend that I had not seen in years, and who now happens to be my wife. At that time, she was living in Venezuela, and she was in Florida visiting family, cousins, or something. And, well, it was a great show, of course. It was like 3 hours, I remember. They played a fucking amazing version of A Forest. Wow. This was the tour where Paul was doing like all the synth parts on guitar. He was looking like a, I don't know, weird badass tattooed motherfucker. It was a great show. I mean, your first Cure show, I guess it's hard to forget. Now I've seen them only 5 times. 3 of them on the 2016 tour that I was already living here. So I saw them in Minneapolis, and a couple of days later we drove for 2 shows in Chicago. I am yet to see a show in which they play Plainsong and Disintegration. It's odd. I mean, they play those fairly frequently, and yeah, I hope someday it happens for me. My biggest frustration in terms of live shows was not having been able to see them on the Reflections shows. Those they did in, I think it was in 2011. Oh, I would have loved to see that. So, no, it didn't happen. I'm hoping I can fly to New York for the Rock Hall thing, and hoping really hard they announce something for the fall here in the U.S. And still giving serious thought to going over to Europe and see some of those shows. Thing is, well, it's a lot of money, and the thing is, just festival shows. I saw them one time in a festival setting, and I don't think it's the same. And well, then also hoping for the new album. I think those songs they played in 2016 were great, and I'm crossing my fingers that production does them justice if they decide to go with them for the album, because I think production has heard a little of their later albums. Anyway, Gavin, and I'll hold the hour podcast. I'll keep in touch, and participate some more. And again, thank you from my heart, really. Thank you so much for keeping this going. I've been missing something like this for a very long time. Talk hard.
All right, thanks so much, Victor. So great to hear your voice and finally get to share your backstory with everybody. I've been sitting on this clip for a little while, just trying to find the right time to use it, and hope everybody gets to see the different perspective and how, here I am complaining of how hard it was to get cure info in a little redneck town of Stafford, Virginia, when you had it so much harder, apparently, and just crazy backtracking through the catalog there and really unearthing it all and how we all are so different but so similar in the ways that we get into the cure. So thank you so much for sharing that. And we're going to shift gears now to the UK, where we get to hear a different perspective of how you can stumble into the cure much later even. And through Jon, who is also no stranger to the show. Jon has contributed in the past and was great about scheduling a time where we could call each other up despite the time zone differences and hash out how it all began for Jon. Let's dive on in. Hey guys, welcome to the show. We are having a very special guest on the show today, and I welcome Jon. How's it going, man?
Hello, everyone's going well, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we got, do you go by Jon over Jonathan?
Yeah,
or? Okay.
Jon, yeah.
Okay,
Jon.
cool. So yeah, if you've been, anyone out there has been listening to the show, you're not a stranger to this program. We've had you on in various forms in the past. So yeah, thanks so much for contributing in the past and talking with us today.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, which ones do we have you on for? You sent in
my old band Safari Inc. We did like a mashup cover of Bush's Machine Head and The Cure's Lullaby.
Right. Yeah.
We did that, and I think I've done a few reviews. I think I did a write up on Wild Mood Swings. I definitely remember that.
Yeah, and
a little bit more favourite, a bit more positive on it than yourselves. Like,
yeah. That's one everyone kind of goes back and forth on. So, like the album, it's all over the place, even the reviews.
Yeah.
But, cool. So where are you at now, location-wise? Are you?
I live in Wallasey, so that's basically if you would ever look on a map, it's opposite Liverpool. We're separated by a river. So I was going to say Liverpool, but people from Liverpool kind of get a bit niffy when you say you're from Liverpool and you're actually not. So yeah,
right.
Wallasey, New Brighton, exactly. It's like a little seaside town. Used to be massive in the 50s and 60s as a holiday resort, and then it got abandoned, and it's kind of come back to life again now, actually. So yeah, it's a nice place to live.
Cool. How long you been there?
Yeah, all my life. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. So good music scene and all, or?
Well, Liverpool's big for the Beatles, obviously,
right?
And all that, and the north of Britain in general. We've had a lot of the Smiths, Oasis, Joy Division. Countless bands. Kind of modern times. Well, I'm in a band myself over here, and there's plenty of venues and stuff. I don't think too much is breaking out at the moment, but
yeah.
There's plenty of bands around, yeah. There's a big music scene.
Awesome. You're in a new band now? It sounds like your old band isn't together anymore?
Yeah, I'm in a new band, Satin Split. I was kind of involuntary. I've kind of involuntarily become the lead singer as well as the bassist for this new band. Because we couldn't find a singer, so
right on.
I'll just do it myself.
Yeah, sounds familiar, like a band we know. See what happens when you just kind of step up.
Yeah.
Cool. That's cool. What kind of music? Is it in the same vein as your last band, or?
Similar, a bit darker, yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, the sounds that come out of it, I often describe it to people as Joy Division meets Black Sabbath.
Okay, cool.
I've definitely kind of pinched a few influences from The Cure, but more kind of from like the pornography era of the band.
Yeah.
Kind of really heavy, dark, um, kind of the heaviest stuff rather than, obviously anything you'd expect off Head on the Door or anything like that. But,
Yeah.
it's early days and we're all developing as a band, and The Cure, obviously a massive influence on me. So
Sweet.
we'll
Yeah.
see where that leads.
Cool. Yeah, you get some recordings. We'll definitely have to share them with the people out there. So feel free to send them our way. Cool. So maybe from the start then, let's go back, since this episode is going to be kind of focusing on origin tales. We haven't had some of these in a while, so we always love to hear where all this madness began. And how about for you? Where were you into in your wee days before discovering The Cure? What kind of music?
I kind of grew up heavily around music, mainly from my dad, to be honest. He was always into the kind of rock of the 70s, like AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and I definitely picked up on Pink Floyd. They were like one of the first bands I ever got into. Specifically the Wall album. I was in love with the Wall album since as young as I can remember, really. And as I kind of got older, another band that I really became attracted to was Iron Maiden.
Okay.
Really loved them throughout my teen years, and then as I got a bit older, into my later teens, I started getting into like kind of the more modern. Well, there was still a few years. I was still a few years behind everyone else, but the more modern bands like Korn and Limp Bizkit, Disturbed, kind of bands like that. And funnily enough, it's quite funny really, but it was through Korn that I kind of really discovered The Cure.
Awesome.
Because the Korn did like an MTV Live performance album.
Yeah.
I remember picking that up, and one of the guests on it was The Cure. They did this "Make Me Bad" in between days mashup, which I think I've heard on the show that you and the guys aren't particularly.
Yeah, we probably collectively sighed about, but but that's what I love about it too, is that for every geezer sighs about it, there's like a young crowd out there that got exposed to them for the first time because of that, so it's a job. It's like a any of that stuff, or a movie soundtrack or something where it's just like what, but that's pretty cool. So it's good to know that it had a purpose there. So
so I was about I think I was about 16, 17 when I got into that, and that led me to just get onto this is around about 2007, 2008. So I got on YouTube and start searching The Cure videos, and as soon as I must have heard them on the radio in the past, but as soon as I properly sat down and listened to Just Like Heaven, that was it. That was like the snap in my brain, and I was hooked on them.
That was the one that pulled you in,
yeah. But my uncle is big on a lot of the 80s kind of bands like The Cure and Depeche Mode and Simple Minds and U2 and all that. So I remember throwing him a text telling him, I've gone into this band The Cure, do you know them? And he came back with all the information. Listen to this album, listen to that album, listen to that album. So I think he got me onto Pornography and Disintegration. So they were the first two Cure albums I actually listened to.
Oh wow, cool.
Probably the best way to start it.
It's like straight into the lion's den there.
To Pornography, and as I say, going back, at this time I was quite heavy into the music I listened to, and this kind of had that heaviness, but also had the sadness, and in a way, like the music seemed to more take its time to get its message across, whereas a lot of like metal and new metal straight to the point, bang bang bang. But you hear the songs of Pornography, and it's like there's such like a deep kind of sadness, but something really hits you there at the same time, and being kind of a dark, melancholic 17-year-old, that stuff just struck a nerve completely and really set it off. So after that, I just got straight, every time I got a bit of money, I was straight to the shops buying new Cure albums.
I'm always curious how did you just kind of get them as they came, or did you have a calculated plan to try to get them in order or anything like that?
Well, I'd kind of go off what people would say on the internet, kind of going off what albums were the more higher praised and the ones worth listening to. So I think I kind of got, their peak stuff first. So obviously, Pornography, Wish, their early stuff, their 17 Seconds, Faith.
Yeah.
And then towards the back end is when I started swimming more towards the deep end with Blood Flowers and Wild Mood Swings and Self-Titled.
Right.
And then the 413 Dream came out around that time, so I remember getting that when it came out.
Right.
Not being a big fan of it when it came out, but I've really grown to like it, to be honest.
Yeah, that one definitely rebounds well, I think. So there's a lot of, still not, top 5 probably by any means, but it's kind of has some shining moments.
You come from, if you could kind of imagine that chart where the line goes up and up and up and up and up, you get Wild Swings and it just plonks straight down.
Yeah.
I think 413 Dreams a bit of a push up.
Yeah.
If you could kind of imagine that.
That's definitely how I visualize it.
Sorted a few things out that they were kind of all over the shop, and especially on that 2004 album.
Yeah. I like that idea, like you're saying, with Pornography and Disintegration, right? Is the introduction where it's a different kind of angst, like at that age too. It's weird because I always kind of leaned towards that, and I always got the angst out of it, but I never got into like metal or anything as a kid when all my friends did, and, which totally makes sense at that age to channel that, but I think The Cure kind of did satisfy that itch for me. It was just like, it's like slow aggression, it's like, like the aggression and the teen angst is in there, but it's just in a different way.
Start to give up a bit at that point, aren't you?
Yeah. So.
I'm just going to sit in my room, listen to The Cure.
Right on. That's pretty cool. So yeah, so as you kind of collected them all, and did any initially stand out as your favorites, or like kind of go back and forth?
There's definitely the albums that I constantly like. You've kind of got to remember this is like the time period of iPods and free players, so I kind of feel a bit dirty admitting this because I know some of the older folks that are a bit looked down on this kind of behaviour, but I'd come home, put the CD into my computer, put it on my iPod, and then I'd usually just put The Cure on shuffle.
Yeah.
I'd listen my way through it, but I always remember that Disintegration was always the go-to album. Listen to Disintegration today. Wish is my favourite album.
Okay.
Definitely, which I can see the criticisms towards it, but as I say, I kind of listen to these albums in a short frame of time.
Right.
So it's a bit different where some people are like, oh, this is kind of treading similar ground and kind of spinning the wheels, whereas I just thought this is kind of more of the definitive Cure album with a bit of everything thrown into it.
I never really fully understood.
Disintegration and The Wish is probably the two albums that that I've definitely pulled to, and they're definitely my two go-to albums.
Right on. Yeah, I'm pretty much with you on that too. Like I can never quite sort out, as we hashed out a billion times over Wish there, where it was such a sentimental time in my life of loving the band at a young age and everything, and like the first time seeing them live and everything. But then like I really feel like that album still just is awesome. I mean, like you said, it's the variety that really saves that one too. It's like it is them like really clicking in every degree. It's like they've got the pop stuff, the sad stuff, but it's them like really kicking ass at all of it. And it's like a good combination where if you're not just feeling full on disintegration, you can really get a lot out of that album, and I think it works great. So the poppy stuff too, then coming from that background, did that kind of reel you in, or was that always a little harder to swallow?
I've never liked a lot of the poppy stuff has kind of gone over my head, whereas stuff like The Walk, Let's Go to Bed, most of the top is difficult for me to stomach, to put it greatly. I have an appreciation for it and a respect for it, and I think musically all the songs are fine, but yeah, like Love Cats and stuff like that. It's just kind of like, what you doing, Robert? Like, you just be miserable.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that was a big key in my youth, and even to this day. And I was being a Cure fan
Hmm.
at my age at that time was very isolating
Yeah.
because it's very difficult to find anyone else who was a Cure fan, especially to the extent that I was. It if anyone knew of the Cure, the first things that come to the mind is, oh, yeah, I've got the greatest hits album at home. Yeah, oh yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. And
Huh.
I'd be like, I'd be pulling my hair out. No.
Right, right. Yeah, it's interesting. I had that jotted down as something to ask you of how like the culture of growing up, younger and like the younger days of getting into cureness. I'm sure you've heard people venting on the show here and stuff of like how it was because they were such like the ultimate alternative band and stuff like especially in like the late 80s and 90s for high schools and stuff that was always like the drama kids the
Yeah.
kind of outcast and stuff and I wondered over there if there was any drastic difference in that or if it was
Yeah.
still kind of a
Seems quite familiar, doesn't it, really? Because,
yeah.
kind of me, that summed me up as a youth, the dramatic kind of outcast.
Yeah, yeah, you would think
Yeah.
like from our like, just kind of naive American perspective, it'd be like, well, over there, everybody must love the Cure, and it's just this widely accepted thing where everybody's just, celebrating this band constantly, and that's what it's like. But so yeah, I guess there's always a little of that. But that's probably their charm, right? Is that they
Yeah,
always kind of
definitely.
reel in the kids when they feel like they're not belonging anywhere. So Robert's there. So have you had many live experiences? Have you been able to catch them live?
I've had two. I'm going to the Glasgow show this year in
Okay.
August, which I'm really excited about. The first time I saw them, unfortunately, I kind of missed them on their 413 tour.
Right.
Because even though like the internet was quite strong back then, but it was nothing like it was now. I didn't even know they were playing, and
Right.
you find out they've just wrapped up a UK leg, and you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
So I was eagerly awaiting anything from the Cure. I know they did Reading and Leeds Fest in, was it 2012?
Yeah.
I
Sounds
didn't
right.
really have the money to go to that, but they announced like two shows at the Hammersmith in 2014 in London.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm going to this because the Cure have been so quiet from that period.
Yeah.
Like I honestly thought there could possibly be a chance I could never see these, and they could pack it in any moment now. So
Right.
I was 8 o'clock in the morning. I was on that website refreshing the page. It was crashing like mad. I managed to get 2 tickets. I was absolutely over the moon, and they announced the third day as soon as I got 2 tickets. But yeah, I went down. It was 3 nights, and I went down to the first show, the first night, and I've got like the trilogy Blu-ray, and I've even got that Cure. Is it Cure Festival or Cure Live or something like that?
Yeah, the 2005.
Yeah, the 2000s one.
Yeah.
So I wasn't completely sure to know what I was walking into, and that was the tour. I think they played every song off the top.
Yeah, I remember
Which was
hearing about
really,
that.
as I said before, it's not my favourite album, but it was such a huge set. It was great here, and I think they definitely played a night like this. But I think they played the Green Sea as well.
Yeah.
So I was made up, and what I didn't really know was like they kind of do about like 3 or 4 encores, don't they?
Yeah.
So they had their first encore, and I was like, oh yeah, great encore. And then they came on again, and that was like a really like magical moment that I don't think I'll ever really get again with another band. It's just obviously like some veteran fans would know, oh yeah, they do this, they come on, do a long set, but
yeah.
It really felt like a really historic gig. Like, oh my god, this band, they just keep coming back and playing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I was made up with that, which is kind of funny because that leads into my second gig, which was the infamous Manchester gig in 2016.
Okay, yeah.
And they cut the set short, and I went with my uncle that time, and I remember saying to him on the way, like, oh, they're going to play about almost 40 songs, it's great. And they kind of cut off at about 20 odd, and I was a bit like, oh, what went on there? And there was some rumours flying around afterwards that Robert was a bit annoyed with the crowd.
Yeah.
And there was other rumours as well that he had a sore throat. And I remember I was quite close to the stage, and I do remember, like, as he was walking off at the end of the show, he was kind of pulling faces to go, I don't want to leave, but
Right.
So we'll never get to the bottom of that one. But yeah, I was a little. It was still an amazing show, you know. It was they played Burn. That's one of my favourite Cure songs.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they played that. It was absolutely made up. But yeah, so there's me two behind me, and I've got this one ahead. I'm looking forward to this, you know.
Yeah, it's funny, we're going back to the Manchester thing of like how they've kind of put themselves in this position now where even that show, and it got cut short or whatever, was still probably like 2 hours long or something, as opposed to 3 hours long, or how long was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was still about 24, 25 songs. Yeah,
yeah, you know, it's still like longer.
Show, yeah, and they came on early as well.
Yeah.
I think by the time I got there, the Twilight Sad had pretty much packed up, and
yeah,
I think that's what they were annoyed about. I did hear something that they were a bit annoyed that they made it quite aware that they were going to come on early, and the place hadn't even filled out when they come on. Because usually, well, in the UK anyway, a band, you know, the main band doesn't usually come on till about 9 o'clock at night, you know.
Yeah.
So it was quite. I'm sure they came on about like 7:30, nearly 8.
Oh wow, yeah, that's pretty early. So everyone grapes, but it's like, you know, it's still longer than most young bands play, you know. So
I usually just get a 30-minute slot.
Yeah, exactly.
After that, you're in a bit like, oof, yeah.
Yeah, I totally know the feeling.
Only imagine how 60-year-old Robert feels after he's done 3 hours.
Yeah. I've said it a billion times. They're not the easiest songs to sing either, you know. It's not like he's just kind of getting up there and mumbling through things. They're pretty much going full throttle for like almost 3 hours. That's pretty impressive. So
yeah, no, I definitely have a huge respect for the band as well, because they've never really been like, oh, we're the legacy band now, we're going to come on, here's the greatest hits, all right. So, you know, every night the set list changes, and I think that's kind of part of the magic as well, is you don't really know what you're getting into when you go there, because like, what are they going to open up with? Are they going to open up with Plain Song, or Open, or something completely different, something off Bloodflowers? It's, you know, you don't get that with a lot of bands. Another one of my favourite bands is the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I've seen them about 3 times, and the set list like barely changes besides whatever tracks they've brought out off the new album.
Yeah, that's pretty common for bands that even do have the big back catalog. They still just stick with whatever their main most popular album was, sprinkled in a few of the other hits, and that's it, you know. And it's like, because he's always been so good about, like, even from the beginning, like, still picking at least something from every album, you know. There's been very rare moments throughout their history where they've just totally neglected a whole era or album, you know. And it's like, I wonder if he really genuinely feels that good about every song he's recorded, or if he really does know that the fans really just want to hear a little of everything. So it's you know, maybe a little both, but you know, it's pretty cool, because a lot of people, like we said, will just kind of neglect a whole era of their career, and you're always like, oh man, they never play anything off of that, you know?
Yeah. But I'll say, the first time I saw them, they did the top, not in order, it was all sprinkled throughout the set, but, you know, every song off the top, and it's like,
it's so weird.
I'd kind of store them in a dark space, deep in my memories, especially, you know, the band of that age in their career, like, but he certainly must remember them. You know, you never know, he might have just put the top on today. Oh.
Yeah, just kind of reminiscing with the crowd. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Most artists would never even begin to like go into that territory, you know. But it's pretty neat, and just the idea that, you know, fans know that they do that now. They can go a long stretch without even throwing anything weird in there. But there's like, it's like record hunting almost, as long as the hope is there, you know. You're like, you never know. Like on that last tour, it was like Exploding Boy would just pop up out of nowhere, and you're like, what? Why are they playing this now? That's so awesome. So just knowing that chance is there, it's like probably why so many people follow them around and go to every show on the tour and stuff like that. You know, it's like
that's something I've always been interested in doing, but I've never really had the money or anything to do.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to pull
A
off.
band like The Cure, I'd definitely, if they, do a proper UK tour again in the next couple of years or something, I'd definitely try and at least get to more than one show.
Yeah.
As I say, each show is going to be something different, whereas some bands that people see every night, and it's like, why are you seeing these again? It's the exact
same songs, exact same set list in the same order.
Yeah.
It's like, so many bands I love. It's just like at a certain point, I'm like, all right, I know exactly what's going to happen if I go to this show. I'm just, 5 times was enough. I don't need any more. But has your opinion over the years changed of any of the albums, or like something you initially got into when you first started digging in that really struck a chord with you and then kind of wore off more than others, or has it all been fairly consistent?
I think it's fairly been consistent. There's been albums that, as you can imagine, are getting them kind of within bulk in a short period of each other. Like, I'd never really give them a proper listen, and as I've got into vinyl, like most people have, when I pick up a new album, obviously I give it a listen, and I've kind of gone back to a few of the Cure albums, especially their really early stuff like Faith and 17 Seconds, which I kind of breezed through them. And having an actual sit down and listen to them has made me give them a bit more respect, a bit more out of them than I originally got. But for me, the band really kicked off with Pornography, in my opinion. That's kind of when the Cure, that everyone knows and loves today, kind of began. Really, whereas the ones before that were kind of like the primordial ooze, so to say. Yeah, there was a bit of inconsistency back then, wasn't there? With you have the first album, which is post-punk, and you go into these really dark places with Faith, and then you've got Pornography, and then you go to the top, and then you go to Head in the Door, which is a bit of both worlds, and it's quite a ride. But I think one album I've certainly kind of warmed up to a bit more was 413 Dream, because I remember the singles coming out for that. I remember The Only One coming out. That was the first single, I believe. I really loved that, especially for the more poppy Cure track as well.
Right.
A really great song. I remember I got the single on CD. It had a really good B-side as well, NY Trip, which probably that would have been better on the album than some of the other tracks on the album. But
that's a pretty solid Cure argument for most of their career. They're really good at the B-sides. Did you were you able to track those down mostly through Join the Dots, or
I got Join the Dots. I got the Join. Yeah, I remember getting Join the Dots. I agree. Some of the B-sides are fantastic. I think some of my favourite songs are off the B-sides, like Home is one of my favourite tracks. Burn is definitely one of my favourite songs from the Cure's, from the from the Crow soundtrack.
Right.
What else? The Big Hand, that's a really good one as well.
Yeah.
And The Exploding Boy, and there's a lot off that Join the Dots, and I think that gave me a bit of an era of smugness being younger, because you had these kind of poser Cure fans, to be a bit blunt, and I'd always be like, I've got the 4-disc B-side, and you hear this song, and no, I didn't think you had.
There's something about those little hidden gems, the fact that they're just B-sides makes it something a little sweeter about them when they're great songs, and I think just in general, too, they never get as many initial over-listens, like when you get an album, you're always just going to play it constantly, and you're kind of covering everything, deep cut singles, everything. But then even if there are great B-sides, you don't quite get as many spins on it, or listens. And
as you can imagine, me and my age, B-sides kind of went
it's kind of
when I was getting
kind of a moot point.
So they're really good. Like, once you've listened to all the albums, it's like, well, try and hunt down the B-sides, and some of them are easy, some of them you can just find on YouTube, and even Spotify have a lot of the B-sides now, but sometimes they're a real hunt, and I do remember getting that Join the B-side, Join the Dots, just being really like, wow, this really is like a kind of treasure chest and kind of a whole new door into a band that I've kind of freshly gone into, and it was great.
Yeah.
I'd love them to release it on vinyl, maybe Record Store Day 2020.
Yeah, who knows?
Or maybe
cool.
show in Paris. Two
True.
records.
Yeah, there's so much stuff they could definitely crank out for the retirement fund there. But yeah, it's weird with the B-sides too. Like because my initial, I guess, first really dig in and love was through Standing on the Beach, and like the cassette came with all the singles on the first side, and then the B-side of the cassette had all the B-sides on it, and it was cool because I was like young enough where I'm not even 100% sure in hindsight if I really knew what a B-side was or what the point was.
Yeah.
I just had this tape and just plowed through all the singles and loved them, and then immediately just went on to side B, and at a certain point I wasn't even really sure probably what I liked more. It was like crazy to think that like a whole collection of B-sides could hold their own to the A-sides, to the point where I'd probably listen to that just as much or maybe even more, so it's pretty cool. But to a kid, you could trick them. Didn't even know what it was, but it's like this is just one really great album. Who knows? But yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you have like a collector bug in you? Do you kind of try to seek out all the rarities and stuff, or is it? Or you're like me, where it's kind of the war you can never really win.
Yeah, I'm huge into me collecting, yeah, but I do kind of have that aspect in me where it's like I'm not going to chase every international release, every pressing. But yeah, I think I've got all the albums on CD, and I've got mostly everything on vinyl. I got Wish. I had to got it for £80, which is probably about $90 odd over on your end. I was absolutely made up on that. I got that off on eBay. I remember going around a friend of my dad's house and looking for it. He had an absolutely massive record collection, and I remember like looking. Oh, let's just check the Cure, see if he's got any Cure.
Yeah.
And he had Wish, Wild Mood Swings.
Oh man.
I'm not sure if he had Blood Flowers or not, but I remember turning around. I didn't have Wish at this point. I remember turning around to him and went, "I'll give you £100 straight up for Wish." And he was just like, "Nope."
Awesome.
So yeah, and I'm definitely I'm trying to hunt down my Wild Mood Swings and Blood Flowers and the self-titled album.
Yeah.
But that's being a collector, innit? Even though you're not that keen on them, I still want them on record.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Bloodflies is the only one I don't have on vinyl now, just because it was that era.
I'm still not sure they're gonna get reissued soon.
Or Wish I don't have.
Any day now, you just never know, do you? With the Cure, they
who knows?
Something in 10 minutes time after. Yep, here's all the albums remastered.
Yeah, we'll get them all. It's like okay, cool.
Till then, it's wishful thinking, but I definitely had to have Wish on vinyl.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's not worth risking the wait. It may never come out.
Right. Yeah, who knows? It'd be cool to get all those outtakes and stuff too. It's all the lost wishes and such. But
yeah, the big like free disc CD.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Well, going back to the idea of the origins and such, I always like in any origin stories to ask if, at this point, passing on the Cure's legacy, have you introduced anybody to the Cure, and if so, how did you do it, or how would you do it? Like, what albums or choices?
I've pulled a few friends onto them. I don't think I really reeled them in, but I definitely got them. Nibbling the bait.
Yeah.
I've definitely turned people onto Disintegration and the Wish album. I've got 2 kids. They're still quite young at the moment, but I'm slipping it in. I'm putting it around them. Hopefully, the albums are going to go somewhere. So hopefully they'll appreciate them when the time comes. But
It'll drive you crazy. They'll latch on to Love Cats and Why Can't I Be You first. That's
Oh god, yeah.
all the ones that drive you crazy.
Yeah. Other than that, it really has been a struggle. It's been like searching for a soulmate, trying to find a fellow Cure fan. It's difficult. It's funny actually. I was in the shop the other day, and the woman at the counter, I had a Cure t-shirt on.
Uh-huh.
Woman at the counter just kind of blurted out, "Killing an Arab." I was like, oh yeah.
I didn't do it.
It started going off. Like, I've seen it. I saw them with Susie and the Banshees. I saw. I've seen it back then.
That's cool.
That's great.
Interesting song choice to blurt out across the room, but
I know. Yeah, well, she did say after that, she went, "Oh, bet you they don't play that anymore."
Yeah.
I think they have recently, haven't they? But
He's
the name.
He kind of went on the record of trying to win it back or redefine it again, but which is cool, especially when they're doing like the 40th anniversary stuff, and they shouldn't, they've been trying to make that clear for their whole career. So at this point, I think they deserve the right to not have to explain it every time. But I could see how people get bent out of shape. Any specific albums that you think, even if it's not your particular favorites, would be the best way to introduce a potential Cure fan? Like, what do you think's the most accessible?
I regret to say this, but I'd probably say the first thing you should pick up is probably the greatest hits.
Yeah.
I'd probably say Galore, but that's probably harder to track.
Yeah.
It's got a better lineup than the greatest hits. The greatest hits has a lot more of their.
A little bit.
Yeah, so I'd probably say, just dip your toes in the water, listen to the main singles, the greatest hits, and then when you want to go a bit further, get maybe Wish is a good introductory album. As we said, it's got a bit of everything. Yeah. And then, get deeper and deeper. Disintegration, Pornography, 17 Seconds, and then you go into pitch black dark waters and check out self-titled. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's usually pretty far on everyone's list there. But it is funny just to hear the different angles of like the albums with variety. I think like Wish and Head on the Door definitely seem to be the ones that have a little of everything.
To be honest, actually, I'll rephrase that. I'd probably say Head on the Door is the first proper studio album I'd introduce.
Yeah. It's a little more concise too, it doesn't have as much like
you've got Close to Me, In Between Days, instant, you're going to latch onto something familiar, so
that'd be good. And it's funny though, for how many people like revisiting all the Disintegration stuff in the last few weeks has been their story too, and even like yours, where it was like that was the first one that they heard and really latched on to. It was like Disintegration or even Pornography. I'm always kind of like, oh wow, that just like it totally makes sense. But at the same time, it's like, man, when you go heavy right off the bat, the poppy's gonna seem real poppy then. And but yeah, even with myself, that was like the first like official album that came out that I was gonna love no matter what, and just happened that it was Disintegration. But so you would think that might be a little too heavy to
do. I could only imagine kind of being around that time when that album came out, like just this band that had kind of been going for how long was it then? Like 10? Was it 10 or 20 years at that point?
10. Yeah. I guess it seems like it was longer. They'd redefined themselves like 3 times
throughout a decade. Yeah.
But it's just strange. I even remember as a kid, like wanting them, to get more mainstream success and stuff, just for my own probably validation of like, I'm not a freak for liking these guys, But then like, I love Disintegration, of course, but at the same time I was worried. I was like, I don't know, man. He's like singing about spiders and shit, and everyone's gonna want to beat me up even more now. This guy's like really getting dark.
It's quite funny, isn't it? Because a lot of like TV shows and stuff, films, nowadays like kind of celebrate all that kind of alternative stuff of the 80s. Go, oh, this is what the 80s was like. Everyone listened to The Cure, and and it's not entirely the truth, is it? You know,
Right.
well, you know, obviously people did, but you know, it wasn't as mainstream as accepted as kind of the films kind of painted out to be, really.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely more of the not so secret club, you know, where
Yeah.
everybody that was a little awkward was in it. But so,
If you were a gambling man, when do you think we'll see the new album?
yeah, the new album. I guess that's the newest mystery. They're already kind of pushing it back again. I guess with that last round of interview, I wasn't sure if you heard that or not, but he was. Now they had already pushed the U.S. tour back to like 2020. It sounded like. And he said
Yeah.
the album's going to be out before Christmas, he says. And something we were talking about last night with the recordings we did too, is like, I think this one's pretty definite. We're going to get it, but it's hard to say if it's going to stretch out a longer thing and what the deal is. But yeah, I think before the end of the year, we'll get this record. And whether it's, you know, going to be Blood Flowers Part 2 or what, sounds like they're gearing up for some pretty epic long songs. But
Yeah, I think they've certainly had time to kind of really stew on it, haven't they?
yeah,
So,
it seems like if they came out
kind of
blazing
hoping
with
it's not
pop
Blood
singles.
Flowers too, but at the same time, it's possible, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. Well, I hope that. I'm holding out hope for this one. Each one, I keep trying not to get my hopes up too much, you know, or I'm like, well, who knows? Whatever it is, it'll be fine and cool just to have a new one. But I think there's like some level of keeping the expectations a little low too, you know, and then I can be pleasantly surprised by it. But I don't want to be negative towards it either, you know. So I'm definitely
cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I think that's what they call it, right?
At least it might have some good artwork, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Get the vinyl out and look at it. Maybe not put the discs on, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident it'll be good, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, if it had Things Can Never Be the Same on it, that would. You know,
Yeah, I hope so.
that's a great song as it is. So even if it just had that and the rest were stinkers, you know, that's something.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like backing the idea that he was that enthusiastic to make it, and it actually got recorded within like a year technically, and you know, like at this point they've what's it been 11 years since the last one, so I mean, really, there's no need to make it unless he really wanted to. So at least the passion's there, you know. There's no, you know, just like, well, I'm gonna make another record, you know. At that point, he totally could have just never made a record if he wanted to. So I think it's pretty cool to know that there was a reason and, you know, some kind of passion to want to get in there, sincerely make it, you know. So I think hopefully that'll be enough to put it into the really awesome category, and it would be great to have one more really solid one, you know, just for.
Yeah, it's great to respect the legacy, isn't it? And I think, you know, I think Robert Smith's always going to have a bias towards his own work, but he must have kind of seen the writing on the wall, really, where he's like, these have been kind of going down in quality. Like you don't want to have more bad albums than good albums, do you? So it's probably good that he's kind of took a step back, despite the fans, you know, begging and pleading. Oh, there's another album out. It's like, I'll do it when it's right, and that's you've got to really give some major props for that, because it could be easy to just, you know, scribble out an album, release it, get the money off it, and tour. Like AC/DC have released the same album for 30 years.
Totally, just crank it out, you know. So can't accuse him of that, at least. Cool. Well, yeah, hopefully we can all get together and talk about this new record and have the whole second half or start of the next year being dedicated to all these new thoughts and crazy twists and turns that they will deliver with this album. And I'm going to try to stay positive for it. If nothing else, we'll get a really good tour out of it, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool, man. Well, thanks so much for talking to record and call and fit it into the time zone differences there. So I hope I'm not
it's
keeping you from dinner or anything.
No, yeah, just a quick one. If anyone could get onto Facebook and give my band Saturn Split a like, that'd be brilliant. I know I doubt that you're going to be coming all the way to the UK to see us play, but just
Yeah,
that support helps us out, you know.
yeah, for sure. So you got a
Thanks for having
Facebook
me on,
page then for the new band?
experience. Yeah, we've got a Facebook page, yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
And
Yeah,
we've got a few recordings. We did a heavy cover of Bed Sitter by Soft Cell. Do you know that one?
okay, yeah, awesome. Cool. Yeah, we'll definitely put that in the link on the Facebook page of ours as well, too. So we'll try to. Can you link other Facebook pages?
I believe you can, yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Get enough notice. Awesome, cool. You got some shows lined up, or are you kind of in the process?
We were playing. We're playing Stockport. That's near Manchester. At the end of the week, we were playing Runcorn. At the end of the month, and that's it till now. But in July, we're putting on an event in Liverpool, which we're kind of really hoping to be quite a big one. So yeah, plans on the horizon.
Cool deal. So yeah, people can check out the dates on the Facebook page then, since who knows when I'll get this up, but hopefully catch those later ones for sure. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, man. It's great to have a real conversation with you and get to know you better. Appreciate it.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. All right. Signing off. All right, guys. Thanks so much. And again, special thanks to Victor and Jon for sharing your origin stories with us. Always great to hear how it all started. And as we forge on into 2019, so many new highlights for every Cure fan just around the corner. Festival season is kicking in now. So who knows what's around the bend. So be sure to subscribe to the Holy Hour podcast on iTunes and on YouTube now. So if you're more of a watch YouTube and listen to YouTube person while you work, that might be a better avenue for you. So whatever, man, you got options. All the other ones too, Google Play and Spotify. I think we're all on all those now. So check it out and don't miss an episode. Be sure to follow Instagram. That's where we throw out all our feelers and casual updates. So the Holy Hour podcast on Instagram, and the Facebook page is important for links. So such as Saturn Split, Jon's band. So go find that and listen to some clips. You won't be disappointed. And like his page as he asked you good people to do. So Facebook page is where you'll find all kinds of cool extras for each episode. And if you want to just write to me directly about contributing, complaints, praise, whatever you want to do, send it to gavinconner@gmail.com. Be glad to hear your thoughts. And if that isn't enough, go buy some t-shirts, man. Keep your eyes on 17 seconds shirts.bigcartel.com, because that's where Chaz cranks out all your favorite Cure t-shirts and comes up with cool original designs that you won't be able to find anywhere else at affordable prices. You won't be disappointed. They are 90% of my wardrobe. So why don't you go treat yourself now and put on the first Cure record that you heard as a wee lad, or maybe last week, and go down memory lane of how it all began. And we'll catch you next time. Talk hard.
Spider-Man is all